those flat television costs a lot of money. You have to establish players in the space, and I've been trying to figure out how do we get them back to them.
Let me tell you about one of my favorite games of all time, and how it dashed my dreams, spit on them in my face. This game once made a promise to me, you know. It promised to release on the OUYA, the console with one of the purest souls of all console generations. High school me was excited, an indie console for the everyman that would be cheap to buy, used Android as the back-end OS to make it an open-source console, and allow every man, woman, and child in this beautiful planet to develop and publish games for it. It was as if Newgrounds made a console, or itch.io and DeviantArt, more like it. Minecraft was gonna be on it, and Twitch TV. We already had Grand Theft Auto Vice City and 3 on Android, so, maybe that could possibly release for the OUYA. But the game that I was looking forward to so much was Legend of Dungeon. A dungeon crawler roguelike, random infinite dungeons to explore on the OUYA. It sounded like the coolest thing to me. I learned about it through OUYA Gaming Source, some YouTube channel that reported on it, and through them I learned that the company, Robot Loves Kitty, had received a dev kit in the mail.
So, here's Legend of Dungeon, kind of on the OUYA.
The game was going to release on PC, but yeah, sure, of course I could run the game on this big old hunk of chunk of a computer. I didn't want to do that, though. I wanted to run it on a console for the console experience. The OUYA console experience. The OUYA indie gaming console experience. So I waited for all the promises of the OUYA, only for my dreams to be dashed and my precious console left to rot in the dust. No Minecraft, barely any support from any of the big name publishers, but what hurt the most was no Legend of Dungeon. That dream was dead until today. For unbeknownst to my better judgment, I had been sitting on the lost unreleased copy of Legend of Dungeon for 10 years. How do I have this? Well, here's a hazy recollection from 10 years ago. The developer Robot Loves Kitty would do dev streams on Twitch, and one day in college I was watching in between classes, and I had asked about Legend of Dungeon and the OUYA copy, and if, they'd planned on releasing it for the NVIDIA Shield. 2014, 2015, I assumed the OUYA copy was dead. They didn't release at launch. The developer said that the game didn't run well in the OUYA, so he scrapped it, but had a build for the Shield. And I asked him if I could test it out since I was a big fan of the game and had both the Shield Portable and the Shield Tablet. And surprisingly to me, he said yes, and he emailed me the APK file. The game ran on the Shield Portable and tablet beautifully, and I think I tried installing it on the OUYA, but it just crashed immediately on launching, and then when I did finally get in-game, it was very laggy and unplayable, just like the developer said. Figure that was that. Fast forward nearly 10 years later, and I just randomly decide to try running the game on the OUYA again, but this time, because surprisingly, I didn't go to the options menu because it was just so laggy. I assumed, oh, it's not responding, whatever, but it did. And so I finally went and changed the video options, and to my shock, by simply turning off the bump mapping, the game went from a completely unplayable, laggy mess to a mostly playable frame rate. But then when I changed the resolution settings, that shot my frame rate up way better to the point of fully playable. And so here we are, my dream finally came true. Long after OUYA's commercial death, I was finally able to have the experience that I wanted to have when I was in high school by playing Legend of Dungeon on the OUYA. But could finally living that little dream of mine actually hold up or matter after literally 10 years? I mean, I've owned the copy on PC for this entire time, and the copy on the OUYA is actually an outdated version of the game on top of everything. So, did it really live up to the fantasy for me? Yeah, it did. it's Legend of Dungeon on the fucking OUYA. It was very fulfilling to finally get to experience what was, you know, a dream turned into just a lost expectation. The OUYA was always the intended way to play this game in my mind, so it felt like an accomplishment. It felt fulfilling. It left me feeling very content and more grateful for the console to be able to have another game that I enjoyed playing on it. The OUYA deserved more care and love. Bullied and beaten by a harsh world, it deserved more console quality games like Legend of Dungeon to release for it. I personally think that it could have been remembered as one of the few great OUYA games worth talking about like Towerful Ascension. But the world is a cruel place, and instead, they beat up the console, they yelled at it, called it stupid for trying to quote-unquote compete with the big three, called it stupid for using Android because who wants to play Angry Birds on their TV? Who wants to play mobile games? Completely missing the point of Android just being the OS, much in the way of the Steam Deck using Linux today. The OUYA will never die. The OUYA will never die. The OUYA will never die. I'm telling you, the OUYA will never die. And neither will Legend of Dungeon. And by the way, at this point, it's been so long. Robot Loves Kitty, please, for the love of God, I beg of you, just open source this game. Make it an open source game. I want to see it in the Ubuntu Software Center. Be able to install it. I want people rebuilding this game for everything imaginable. Make this shit run on the fucking OUYA proper with the latest version. Make the fucking game run on the PS3 or a Wii U. I want this thing open source. Kindly. Thank you. Please subscribe.